Most people in Pine Ridge Lake had forgotten about Karen Sutton. Or at least, they pretended they had. After the trial, the shouting, the scandals, and the HOA board collapsing like a wet paper plate, the town scrubbed her name from every conversation. For 2 years, her cabin sat empty, swallowed by moss and silence. No one expected her to return. No one wanted her to return. But I had always known she would. I was splitting logs behind my cabin when I heard the growl of a car engine, an old silver sedan, coughing up dust like a dying smoker, creeping down the gravel road toward the lakefront. I didn't look up at first. Tourist? Lost fisherman? Delivery driver? But then I heard the slam of a door. Then the clicking of cheap heels. Then the voice. Shrill. Sharp. Familiar enough to freeze me in place. You. I turned slowly. There she was, Karen Sutton herself, standing at the foot of my driveway like a ghost someone accidentally ordered back from the dead. Older, yes. A little thinner. Her hair was less platinum and more prison-grade yellow now, tied in a ponytail that tried, and failed, to look expensive. She wore oversized sunglasses that couldn't hide the sour twist of her mouth. Karen, I muttered, setting down the axe. Didn't expect to see you until. Well, ever. She marched toward me, kicking up dust, her expression already boiling. I get out of prison for 1 day and what do I find? She snapped. You, still living in my community. I raised an eyebrow. First of all, this is not your community. Second, you are very much not in the HOA anymore. She scoffed, waving her hand. Oh please. That board would still be thriving if you hadn't stuck your nose where it doesn't belong. Memories flashed through my mind, her stealing funds, forging signatures, slapping bogus fines on everyone she had grudges against. The day she tried to seize my cabin over a made-up violation. The day I found her breaking into people's mailboxes. The day all of it caught up to her in court. That board was corrupt, Karen, I said calmly. You went to jail because you committed crimes, not because I existed. She jabbed a finger at me. You ruined my life. And you ruined plenty of others, I replied, crossing my arms. You should be grateful you only got 2 years. She let out a humorless laugh. Grateful? Grateful? She took a step closer. Do you know where I had to sleep? What I ate? What I dealt with every day while you got to sit here in this little cabin of yours, drinking tea and chopping wood like some smug mountain man? I drink coffee, I corrected. Tea is for when my stomach hurts. She didn't appreciate the humor. This, she said, gesturing around wildly, was supposed to be mine. My perfect community. My perfect rules. And everyone was supposed to listen to me. But thanks to you, everything fell apart. I sighed. Karen, Pine Ridge didn't fall apart. It got better. No HOA dictatorship, no illegal fines, no people crying because you threatened to bulldoze their gardens. She stiffened. Those gardens violated height regulations. You made those regulations. Exactly, she said, not understanding how insane she sounded. A long silence hung between us. Birds chirped. The lake shimmered behind her. And Karen stood there breathing hard, staring at my cabin like she wanted to burn it down with her mind. Finally, she tugged off her sunglasses and pointed them at me like a weapon. I came back, she said with icy calm, expecting people to apologize. To welcome me back. To admit they were wrong. No one was wrong, I said gently. Except you. Her lips twitched. Well. I am back now. And since my old house was sold to pay restitution, I'll be living somewhere nearby. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? It means, she said with a smirk, I will be around. watching. Making sure things are done properly again. Karen, there is no HOA anymore. Oh, there will be. She winked. Give me time. I nearly laughed. You seriously think anyone in this town wants you in charge again? She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. They will not have a choice. The way she said it sent a cold ripple down my spine. She sounded exactly like she had before the trial, entitled, plotting, and absolutely convinced the world owed her obedience. She turned on her heel and strutted back to her sputtering sedan. As she slammed the door and sped off, throwing gravel across my driveway, I realized something unsettling. Karen wasn't back to rebuild her life. She was back to rebuild her power. And she was aiming straight for me first. For 6 peaceful years, life in the cabin had finally become what I always wanted: quiet, predictable, and mine. No pounding on the door at dawn, no ridiculous HOA notices, no community rule changes, and definitely no Karen. I never forgot the chaos she caused before she went to prison: attempted property seizure, harassment, falsified complaints, even the ridiculous accusation that my cabin was disturbing the natural color palette of the community. After the judge called her out for fraud and extortion, the neighborhood finally breathed. HOA members quit, the board dissolved, and the place transformed into a friendly little mountain stretch where folks kept to themselves. I thought the story had ended there. Turns out, it was just the intermission. It started on a cold, foggy morning in late October. I was splitting firewood behind the cabin when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. I figured it was just my neighbor Walt dropping off leftover elk jerky like he always did around this time of year. But then I heard a sound I recognized instantly. A voice that lived in the part of my memory reserved for headaches and courtroom echoes. This is unacceptable. The axe slipped from my hands. Impossible, I thought. She cannot be out already. But when I walked around the side of the cabin, there she was. Karen. In the flesh. Standing on my property like she never missed a day. Her appearance had changed, but her attitude? Not one bit. She had shorter hair now, streaked with gray. She wore a puffy beige jacket, dark jeans, and those same knockoff designer sunglasses she used to insist were board-approved. But her eyes. Her eyes were the same, sharp, judgmental, scanning for something to complain about. She froze when she finally saw me. I expected rage. I expected screaming. Maybe even the classic finger-pointing she mastered years ago. Instead, she blinked twice, stiffened her shoulders, and forced a smile so fake it could have been printed. Oh. You. Yep, I said. Still me. Still here. Karen had just her sunglasses even though the sky was cloudy. I assumed, she said slowly, after the unfortunate legal misunderstandings. You would have moved. Why would I move from my own land? She waved her hand dismissively. Well, I am prepared to be civil. I turned over a new leaf. Prison does that to a person. The way she said it told me she absolutely had not turned over a new leaf. In fact, she probably glued the old leaf back on and spray-painted it gold. Before I could respond, a black SUV pulled up behind her. The door opened, and a younger man stepped out, mid-20s, tall, trying hard to look intimidating. My son, Karen said proudly. He is helping me get reinstated in the community. I raised an eyebrow. Reinstated? Karen, the HOA doesn't even exist anymore. Her smile twitched. I know, she said sweetly. Which is why I am rebuilding it. Great. She had been out of prison for what, 2 hours? And she was already trying to resurrect the HOA like some kind of suburban necromancer. Her son stepped closer. You're on land that used to fall under community jurisdiction, he said. Well, be reviewing your structures for compliance. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. You can review my dirt if you want. None of this belongs to a community anymore. Karen stiffened. Well, I thought we should talk. Start fresh. But her eyes weren't on me. She was looking past my shoulder. At the cabin. Scanning it like a hawk. Judging every plank, every window, every angle of the porch railing. You added a firewood shed, she noted. Yes. And fencing. Correct. And the deck is larger. It is. She inhaled sharply through her nose. Permits? From who? I asked. God? She sputtered. Her son stepped forward again, but Karen lifted a hand, stopping him. No. Not yet. This is reconnaissance. That word made the hair on my neck stand up. She was planning something. You may think you won, she said quietly. But I always come back. And with that, she turned and walked toward her SUV. Her son followed but looked back once, giving me a glare like had been trained for it in the mirror. They drove off, the gravel spitting behind their tires. I stood there long after they left, staring at the empty road. Not because I was afraid. But because I knew what Karen looked like when she was plotting. I saw it right before she went to prison. And I saw it again today. She was planning a comeback. And she was not planning it alone. The peace I had built for 6 quiet years had just been declared war on. 3 days passed after the sheriff escorted Karen off my property, and life finally began settling into something close to normal again. The air around the cabin felt lighter. I slept without checking the windows every hour, and even the forest squirrels seemed less jumpy. I genuinely thought the chaos was over. But Karen, freshly released from prison, reputation shattered, pride demolished, was not someone who accepted defeat. I knew she would resurface eventually, but I underestimated just how quickly and how boldly. It was just past sunset on a Thursday evening. The sky burned in gold and violet through the treetops, and the lake breeze pushed cool air through the open windows. I was on the porch repairing a lantern, enjoying the kind of peace that felt earned. My dog, Ranger, snored by my feet, twitching every now and then like he was chasing dream rabbits. The moment was perfect. Until it wasn't. A single car engine rolled up the dirt road, slow, cautious, too quiet to be a stranger. Ranger's ears perked immediately. He stood, tail stiff, letting out a low warning growl. My stomach tightened. No one came down this road unless I knew them. Or unless they had a reason to. Headlights flicked through the trees, lighting up the front of my cabin. The car stopped, too close, intentionally close. I stepped off the porch, lantern still in hand. The driver's door creaked open, and out stepped Karen. Fresh out of prison. Freshly angry. Freshly delusional. She slammed the door shut and stood there with her arms crossed like a scolding mother, even though she was the one who had spent months behind bars. Well, she snapped loudly, I see you have not moved. I blinked. Why would I move? This is my cabin. She scoffed and brushed off her shirt like my property offended her. Your cabin sits on HOA jurisdiction. That means residents have a responsibility to maintain certain standards. Since you refuse to cooperate, I came back to make sure you do. Ranger barked once, sharp and threatening. I held his collar, but even I was halfway tempted to let go. Karen, I said slowly, the sheriff explained everything. You know this land is not HOA property. She waved her hand dismissively. The sheriff misunderstood the codes. I almost laughed out loud. The sheriff misunderstood the law. The law that you violated? Her eyes flared, and she marched closer, poking her finger toward my chest like she owned the world. I have rights, you know. And I came here to reclaim what is rightfully mine. And there it was, the prison time had not humbled her one bit. If anything, she had come back even more deranged, convinced she still held power. Her voice shook, not from fear, but from rage bubbling under her skin. "You stole my home," she hissed. "You embarrassed me. You ruined my life." "You ruined your own life," I corrected. "You broke into my cabin. You cut my wires. You threatened my family. You brought the cops." She clenched her jaw until her teeth practically squeaked. "I only did those things because you refused to obey the HOA. I do not live in the HOA." She stomped her foot like an angry toddler. "You should. Your land touches the edge of it. That makes you an associate member. That is not how anything works." Her breath came out shaky with fury, and then her expression shifted suddenly, like a fake smile slapped over a boiling pot. "You know what?" she said sweetly. Too sweetly. "I think we can still fix this. I want my position back on the HOA board. And all you have to do is sign a little paper saying you want to be part of the community." I stared at her for a full 10 seconds. "You want me," I said slowly, "to voluntarily join the HOA. The same HOA you got kicked out of after committing multiple crimes. So that they might consider letting you back in?" "Yes," she snapped. "Think, for once. This benefits everyone." I let out a long, exhausted sigh. "Karen, I am not signing anything. And if you do not leave right now, I will call the sheriff." She froze. Her eyes narrowed. A sinister, slow smile curled across her face. "You think I am scared of the sheriff?" she whispered. "You should be scared of me." And suddenly, she reached into her car. My body tensed. Ranger growled deeply. But instead of a weapon, she pulled out a stack of papers. She threw them at my feet, they scattered across the dirt. "Fine. Have it your way," she spat. "But do not say I did not warn you. I am filing a formal complaint with the HOA. And trust me, they listened to me. They put you in prison." She ignored the fact entirely, turned sharply, and got back into her car. Her tires spit gravel as she sped away, disappearing into the darkness of the forest road. Ranger barked until the sound faded. I gathered the papers from the ground. All of them were nonsense, prints of fake boundary maps, so poorly photoshopped that even a child would spot the fraud. She had come back with a mission. Not for justice. Not for peace. But for revenge. And somehow, prison had only given her more time to scheme. I looked at Ranger. "This is not over, buddy." He whined softly, pressing his head against my leg. He was right. Karen was back, and the real battle was just beginning. The mountain decides who belongs. Morning sunlight broke across the treetops, streaking the cabin windows in warm gold as I packed firewood beside the porch. After the chaos of yesterday, Karen's return, her attempt to reclaim the cabin, her meltdown when she learned she had no rights to it, I finally felt a sense of peace again. The forest had a way of settling things, reminding you that life was bigger than drama and shouting. But peace never lasted long where Karen was involved. Around noon, I heard the unmistakable crunch of tires struggling on gravel. Heavy, uneven. Not an ordinary sedan. I stepped off the porch and watched as a large black pickup truck rolled up the driveway, its bumper held together by tape, its hood covered in dust. Behind the wheel sat Karen, eyes wild, hair disheveled, and frustration radiating off her like heat. "Fantastic." She rolled down the window and barked. We're not done. You think you can just live here after what you did to me?" "What I did to her?" "She trespassed, threatened me, demanded ownership, broke parole rules, and nearly got herself hauled back to prison. But sure, this was somehow my fault." I folded my arms and stayed silent. I had learned long ago that with people like Karen, silence was the most potent fuel. And judging from the way her face twisted, it worked. She jumped out of the truck. My son says this place was always meant to be ours. And I talked to my old HOA friends, they say I should have first rights to buy it. I raised an eyebrow. Karen, you don't have any rights to anything here. Not the cabin. Not the land. Not even the road you drove in on. You're lying. She snapped, voice cracking. I know you forged those papers. Before she could finish, the crunch of another engine echoed up the driveway. This time it was a familiar white SUV with county markings. I almost smiled, Deputy Miller. He stepped out, hand resting calmly on his belt. Afternoon, he said. Got a call about possible harassment and trespassing. Funny thing, the caller described you as the victim. He nodded toward me. But based on the last 3 reports? It's not adding up. Karen pointed at me like a rabid referee. He stole my home. He forged documents. He's threatening me. Miller blinked slowly, then said flatly. Ma'am, you do realize we have scanned copies of every original deed in the county office, right? And that forging property records is a federal crime? And that we checked everything yesterday? Karen's confidence flickered, but she pushed on, desperation taking over. I don't care. I lived here before. That makes it mine. He should leave. Miller turned to me. You want to file an official trespassing charge? Karen's jaw fell open. Trespassing? I'm the victim. He ignored her, waiting for my answer. But I didn't want her in jail again. I didn't want more paperwork. And honestly, I didn't want to be the reason she spiraled deeper than she already had. No, I said finally. I just want her to stay off my property. Karen exploded. He's lying. You can't tell me where I can or can't go. I'll come back with the HOA, they'll handle you. Miller let out a sigh so deep it could have shaken pine needles from the trees. Ma'am, HOA rules do not apply out here. You're not part of one. He isn't. No jurisdiction. No rights. No claims. Nothing. She froze. What? Do you mean no jurisdiction? He opened his notebook. This cabin, this road, and the land around it fall under county land management, not HOA regulation. You were informed of that when you sold your previous home. Multiple times. In writing. Her face drained of color. Then came the snap. You're all against me, she whispered. Every one of you. She stepped backward, trembling, anger slowly transforming into fear, then confusion, then resignation. Fine. I do not need this stupid cabin anyway. I will go somewhere I am appreciated. She marched back to her truck, floored the engine, and skidded away in a dramatic cloud of dust. Miller watched her go and shook his head. She's trying, I think, he said. Just. In the wrong direction. I exhaled. What do you think will happen now? Shall cool off? Or shall try something small and stupid and well handle it? Either way. I would keep your security cameras running. After he drove off, the forest fell silent. The wind moved softly through the trees, the stream murmured its usual mountain song, and for the first time in days, the weight finally lifted from my shoulders. Later that night, I sat on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching the sky fade from orange to deep blue. Fireflies flickered near the tree line. A peaceful stillness settled over everything. Karen might have been unpredictable. She might show up again someday. People like her always hovered in the background like a storm that never fully passes. But this cabin, the home she tried to reclaim, was still mine. Not because of a deed. Not because of paperwork. but because I built a life here, brick by brick, year by year. The mountains decide who belongs. And this time, they chose me.